You punks, go on my pub! Me and my friends in $100 Volvo, buzzing down the street while we're cruising on the road, getting fucked up on the 101, shooting our guns and having fun. 40 beers later and a line of speed, 8-ball blow and a half a pound of weed, headed down the tracks to Mexico, fucked on beer and stay cold. I drink cheap beer, so what are you? I drink cheap beer, so what are you?
Hello, my name is Liam Bird, and this is the Punks in Pubs podcast, and we are back, baby, back. We took a month off during February, but we're going back to our usual bi-weekly schedule moving forward, so don't worry, we won't be away from you for much longer. So where did I go in February? Well, I took a trip over to America and hung out in DC. If you follow the podcast Instagram account, you would have seen my little escapades in DC, as well as I visited Philadelphia. And whenever I travel, I try and take my microphone and recorder with me. And while I was there, I did manage to grab a couple of interviews. So that'll be coming up later in the year, so make sure you stick around for that. The man who is my guest for episode 32 also happens to hail from the same state as Philadelphia. It's almost like I planned it. This state is Pennsylvania for you non-geography buffs. His name is Tom May. He is the singer and guitarist of the Menzingers, and he has been on every single fucking podcast in the world, so I thought it was about time he was on mine. So here we are, episode 32, me and Tom. This interview took place in August last year at the Rebellion Festival. Tickets, by the way, are available for this year's Rebellion Festival. Go to rebellionfestival.com. Let me start off by saying this was not a deep dive into the history of the Menzingers. If that's something you're looking for, then go and check out the other fucking 1,000 podcasts that Tom has been on. This is very much in the words of the great podcasting lord that is Adam Buxton, a ramblly chat. It's just two guys with a beer talking shit. So what did we talk about? Well, we obviously talk about conspiracy theories because Tom is a massive conspiracy theory fan, and we play the game of real or bullshit. I also pitched the idea of Tom and Tom DeLong's conspiracy TV show, which I'm pretty sure like TMZ or some of that shit is already writing down and contacting Tom DeLong to try and do a documentary about some of the weird shit that he talks about. We also talk about moshing etiquette. Growing up in Scranton, because I've never heard of the town before, I figure out it's actually quite fucking big, but it's not big in the grand scheme of New York and Philadelphia. And I was interested in how that kind of acts for a band that are trying to get a bigger audience when you've got massive cities kind of drawing your audience away. We also talk about countries that are still, quote, punk. And Tom also talks about other countries that he still wants to hit up, even though he will make a massive loss. You will also discover Tom's secret rap history. Actually, I don't know if that's a secret. Unfortunately, he does not spit any bars. As always, your band plays out the show, and this week we're in France, in their capital city, Paris. This band is called Cheap Teen, and you will 100% want to stick around for that. But before that, there's this. People, we've been away, but now we're back, and I give you episode 32 with my chat with Tom May. I will talk to you in a bit.
I was born, but I forgot it. We left our marks in trying cement. Well, hey, mister, don't you doubt it. I was born, but I've same time forgot it.
You just want to pick up the mic however you feel comfortable.
There we go.
Right, we are backstage at Rebellion. We're in a nice little bar area, so we're still carrying on the theme of punks and pubs. And in front of me is the lead singer of the Menzingers, Tom May.
How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Fantastic.
Good. So I feel like we should start by kind of stealing from another podcast.
Okay.
Because
I'm all about that.
So you were on a Guilty Pleasure podcast recently.
Yeah.
Whereabouts you spoke about like your conspiracy theory, love, and UFOs and stuff like that.
Yeah, the premise of the podcast was people come on and talk about their guilty pleasure, go figure.
Yeah.
And mine just happens to be a deep fascination with conspiracy culture and all those message boards and stuff.
Because is that the first time you spoke quite openly about your love of like conspiracy theories and UFOs? Because when I put out a post about, oh, I'm going to go talk to Tom, any questions? I got a couple about aliens and UFOs and...
Yeah, good man, that makes sense.
So is that the first time you've openly spoke about your love for it?
No, I've been pretty open about it in the past. I've probably tweeted some stuff, posted some stuff on different social media outlets. Yeah, no, definitely been into it for a very long time, but never really sat down and talked with anybody in depth about it.
I thought we'd play a quick game before we start. So it's called Real or Bullshit.
Okay.
I'm going to say a conspiracy theory, and you tell me if it's real or bullshit.
Okay.
Okay, so Hollow Moon.
Could be real, possibly. I would give it that. There's a seismic test done by NASA that had really strange results, and that's the only factual thing that I've seen off of it.
Yeah.
The rest are kind of just anecdotal and like bizarre conjecture. There is a Star Trek episode that has a planet that they land on that the entire inside is hollow, and that is a completely isolated microcosmic society on its own, and the whole thing is run by people, and it's supposed to be like an allegory for like a dictatorship in a country, or like one of those socialist countries back in the day. And in reality, it kind of gets spun into a what if, Who fucking knows?
Yeah, because the moon's always something that comes up, isn't it? Like as a conspiracy.
Sure.
Why do you think the moon is always? Is it because it's the closest thing to us and we can physically see it?
I think that it's probably ingrained in our consciousness, like through our DNA or whatever, over years and years and years and years of people looking up and seeing the moon. I mean, it's closely tied to every origin story, religion of throughout the written and non-written world of humanity. And it's just such a crazy, beautiful, fascinating thing. There's a couple of things that are wild about it. It doesn't have its own orbit. So the same side is always facing Earth as it spins around, which is a little bit bizarre for a planet. I think there's one of Saturn's moons that does that as well. So the whole thing is you can't see what's on the dark side of the moon because there's no sunlight on it at all. So it's like the ultimate mystery. Since Clementine has mapped it, and there's people who say that the Clementine mission has, doctored the photos to hide some of the bizarre things that they found on the other side of the moon. Who knows about that? But it also, the way that it fits perfectly to block out the sun, and that happens at regular intervals throughout the timeline of Earth, is just such a weird, bizarre coincidence that seems like it has to have some kind of significance as far as like who we are and where we came from.
Yeah. Flavor of the month: Flat Earth.
Oh, no way. I don't. Yeah, you can disprove flat Earth. There's two. I don't fully understand them very well, but there's one Italian astronomer and scientist that used a suspended large piece of spherical mass that can show the way that it spins, that the Earth is spinning and is indeed round. Also, remember from calculus in college, you're just kind of calculating the area of infinite columns underneath a curve, and it just kind of makes sense with the way that the sun bounces off it and the things you see in the horizon and shit. Like, I don't believe in it.
Well, I mean, my friend's a physics teacher, and I was at a wedding, and we were talking about how work's going, and he just said, like, flat Earth is just ruining everything.
Yeah.
He just said, this kid put their hand and went, I don't believe that the Earth is round. He's like, okay, I'll give you a chance.
Yeah.
So he's like, what's your theory? And she said, well, if you get a tray and you pour water on it, the water stays in the tray. If you get a tennis ball and you pour water on top of the tennis ball, the water falls off. And he's like, are you a fucking moron? It literally,
Gravity of the Earth is pulling
exactly.
it down over it.
So it's weird how that kind of shit's catching on.
My favorite part about that conspiracy is that if you walk to somebody in a pub, let's say we're in this bar right here, and you or I were challenged with proving the fact that the Earth is round, neither of us could definitively do it. You're always just counting on the existence of the institutions and the media around you to say that that's true.
Yeah.
So I think that it could be a side effect of finding out we've been lied to about so many other things in life, and I don't know. It's definitely a really funny one, because if it was flat, then that would mean that the people everything would be such a lie, in such a wide-ranging array. Yeah, that shit's goofy as fuck, man.
My favorite one, ice bucket challenge was a satanic ritual.
Oh, that's tight. I hope that one's real. That one I don't believe is real, but that would be fucking awesome.
So the idea behind that was that everyone was cleansing their souls.
Okay.
Before the wrath was coming.
All right. I mean, I can see the fact that you are shocking yourselves and cleaning yourself as part of like a altruistic notion to try to help people that are worse off than you. So I guess that makes sense at some kind of like level to make that argument.
Yeah. Men in Black.
Oh, love the movies, first of all. But no, the Men in Black, there's a great surveillance footage of these two weird-looking guys walking into a hotel in Virginia, and that's pretty cool. But I don't necessarily believe in the Men in Black. I think that there are, it may not be centralized, but there is, definitely people that are pseudo-government members of the military-industrial complex that would handle certain things. But I don't know if they would manifest themselves as guys in suits and come and erase your memory. I think that might be more of like a weird, connection to some of the more spiritual occult things throughout time, like the weird like beings that visit people in visitations and shit like that. It could be like misfire in your brain, shot a bunch of DMT in or something, and the next thing you know, you see two guys in suits, because that's what the authoritative figures wear now.
Yeah. Well, there was a fantastic three-parter on the last podcast on the left. Do you listen to that?
No, I haven't. Everybody keeps telling me I need to. That I really should.
So they did a three-parter on Men in Black.
Nice.
And it's definitely worth catching out. And same with a music podcast, Courtney Kilkurt.
I don't know. I don't really know much about it. It's certainly plausible from what, just judging by the people I know that think that. And I've definitely read some really extensive, message board posts about it, but I really don't know.
What's your favorite conspiracy theory that you know's bullshit, but you like the idea of it?
Oh man, there's so many. Because when you first started saying that, I immediately reverted to the ones I thought were real. But the ones that my favorite one that's bullshit. Oh man, there's just so many. A lot of the ones that have to do with food additives and population control are pretty great.
Yeah.
Like yellow number 5 in Mountain Dew reduces the sperm count of men, so they fill it up in areas that they don't want, like minority neighborhoods or like West Virginia and shit like that, where they don't want people to reproduce. Those are pretty great.
Well, I mean, what flavor is Mountain Dew? There's a
ambiguously citrus.
Is it what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We've got a drink over here called Vinto. And no one knows what the fuck flavor that is. It's just Vinto flavor. It's
Makes
weird.
sense.
Have you always been like an inquisitive person? Like when you were a child, was that something that you always did? Did you always question everything?
Yeah, definitely inquisitively. I didn't question everything, like against everything, and got really cynical until I was a teenager. But before that, I was very much into learning as much as I could about everything.
Yeah.
To a fault, to where it became like obsessive, and then would drop it immediately and go to the next thing.
Yeah. I mean, one of the questions that came on Twitter about conspiracy theories was one asking if you're going to prove that UFOs exist with Tom DeLonge through punk rock.
I think that's an extremely ambitious goal, but history is so fucking weird. Like, who knows if it is Tom DeLonge the one that brings on disclosure? That'd be so hilarious.
Yeah.
It's like, the only thing that would make sense to prove that we're being visited by extraterrestrial or interdimensional beings or both or whatever would be some guy in a punk band that's saying about like pissing and shitting all the time.
Do you speak a lot about it to other bands when you are touring? Because you obviously tour with loads of other bands. Do you ever like get really meaningful, maybe have a smoke, and like you just realize, the day's gone, and we just spoke about just the weirdest shit?
Oh yeah, I think one of the things about being in a touring band together is that you're in such a unique situation and experience that a lot of the inhibitions, and not niceties because the niceties there, but the inhibitions kind of just go away really quickly.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, we're going to be together for a month. We're in this unique position we've done a million times. We should probably get as close as we can, as quickly as we can, so we can, get to a real connection quickly. And that definitely happens all the time. Get real drunk and hang out and talk about life and shit.
Oh yeah, everything is terrible. Buying marijuana makes you feel like a criminal. When your new friends take a joke to let her all making you feel like the bad guy. Oh, where are we gonna go? Oh, now that our 20s are over. Oh yeah, all of abandoned. I'm not young enough to be a companion. Not old enough to be a guide with a cliche
Scranton, hometown. I know very little about it apart from that your ex-vice president's from there. Trump loves it because of coal mining, and The Office, I think, was based there. That is it.
Yeah, well, Trump doesn't love it because of coal mine. The coal mines dried up in the 1950s.
Okay.
Well, it kind of dried up before that, but the last one, after the Knox mine disaster, where a bunch of people were killed, they kind of stopped mining the anthracite coal in that region of Pennsylvania and Northeast. Yeah, we lived there. We moved out of there about 10 years ago. It's changed a lot since we gone, but it's still definitely the same place.
It was because you guys left. They were like,
Yeah.
let's tidy this shit up.
No. The Office does take place there, and at first I didn't watch The Office because I was just like, being a baby about it. Every time I went somewhere else, someone asked me about The Office because I was from Scranton, so I'd be like, yeah, show's probably not funny, and then watch it and realize it's one of the funniest, best shows I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, it was a beautiful place to grow up. It's very similar to the North here, I would say.
Yeah.
It's got a vibe. It's very similar to Leeds. Manchester, kind of like
Industrial.
Yeah.
Got its history. So what was it like for music then? Because Scranton is in Pennsylvania, and obviously the big city of Pennsylvania is Philly.
Yeah, so Pennsylvania is very rectangular shaped. In the southeast is Philadelphia, in the southwest is Pittsburgh, and the northwest is Erie, Pennsylvania, which is like a port to the Great Lakes. So a lot of raw materials came in there, and then they sent them down to Pittsburgh to be turned into steel. And in the northeast part was mountainous, and that's where Scranton is the county seat, basically in the northeast Pennsylvania. Yeah. And the metropolitan area is about 500, 600,000 people between Scranton and Wilkes-Barre. The city itself is about 80,000 people. It was very broken up into neighborhoods, and it's also very broken up by origin of the immigrants from Europe. So it's super Irish, Italian, and then lots of Eastern European. And we grew up with the music. We just kind of, we had rock, and classic rock was a very big thing there. And we went to Irish music festivals, and that was kind of a big part of it. Church music and shit like that. So that was the big exposures to live music. And I mean, it's also a big market for bigger bands to come. There was a Warped Tour that came through.
Yeah.
And there's an arena there that, bigger bands would come through all the time, like the pop bands in the 90s. So that's kind of our first exposure to it. But there's a lot of, places that you can have shows there that aren't conventional, so it's cheap. So the overhead cost to have like an underground music scene was really easy to do. There's a lot of space to practice. There's a lot of cool people. There's some great music shops. Kind of, I think, started to flourish after a lot of the indie bands and street punk bands before our time. And then you have us and Captain We're Sinking and Tiger's Jaw and Title Fight and a bunch of like Cold World and all those bands kind of just came up in that.
Yeah. So is it weird that those bands actually came up from this small area of America?
I think it's weird, and then I can't really think of any other good examples of it. Usually there'd be at least a suburb of a major city, whereas Scranton is two hours and change away from Philly and 2 hours away from New York, and there's not really any. You'd go there to see like a show if you really wanted to see the band. But otherwise you just wait for them to come through. So I guess it is kind of unique, yeah. I don't know if it was a combination of you just didn't really have the future that you look forward to and the future that you knew was not necessarily some kind of job that you didn't want, but it was definitely not hip. Your parents worked in they manufactured things, or they worked in a hospital. It wasn't like that. So I think we kind of just ruminated on those and reflected and came out of that. Yeah, I got no real reason for it. I guess if you did, you'd be able to do it anywhere. But
So what about music? Who was the person who actually introduced you to music? Was it family? Was it friends?
Probably family. My parents had a CD player. My dad actually worked for one of the major vinyl and then CD manufacturers in the United States was actually in Scranton. So, thousands of people worked at this place called WIA Manufacturing, and they made all the CDs. So the employees would get an allotment of CDs every month. So my dad would just grab whatever shit that him and my mom liked us to. I remember just putting the CDs into the CD player and listening to them, and certain stuff just really got you going. And then my aunt, she played piano and sang, and my uncle, he sang as well. So at family gatherings, and my grandfather played the Irish whistle, so they would all get together every Christmas and just kind of play songs, and that was definitely the first introduction to it.
So what about punk music? What was your first introduction to punk music? Was it from that kind of bargain bin of CDs and you found something, or?
Actually, it was somebody personally introduced me to it. I definitely was into anything that was angry on the radio that I could get. So you had time for me, I just missed kind of Green Day. It was really popular. No, they were still popular. And Korn and Limp Bizkit and that kind of new metal stuff started getting popular. But I got a job as a dishwasher at a place called the Melting Pot when I was 14, and one of the older waitresses, who was probably only 18, gave me 2 cassette tapes. One of them was Public Image Limited, who's playing Blackpool this weekend, funny enough, which I hated. I thought it was fucking stupid as hell. It took me 10 years to revisit it, and I was like, oh, I was just 14. That's why I didn't like it. And Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables by Dead Kennedys, and that one I played over and over and over again. That was cool.
So what was it about that sound that you really enjoyed? Was it just like the holy shit, this is noise, like this is just so much energy?
It was exciting. It was you know, you're growing and you have all that energy, and you just want to. You're starting to see that things don't have to be the way they are. So I started reverting against a lot of the stuff going on at home and going on in school, and just that loud, angry music was just so attractive because it was like. It was like a drug. You know, everybody says that and beats that metaphor into the ground, but it's totally true. You listen to it and you just changed. You know, you could do anything.
And can you remember your first show and going in your first pit? Can you remember that?
There were two different times. I remember seeing the movie SLC Punk and thinking that every show was going to be like that. And I went to see a band called Wonder Dog, which was some emo guys that were, I think, way ahead of their time in Scranton. And they broke off into a band called The Swims, and now Needle Points, and a couple really other awesome bands. But yeah, I went to that show thinking it was going to be a giant mosh pit, but it was in a warehouse in Wilkes-Barre called Home Base, and it was just 15 older people, college kids, standing around listening to emo. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's that. And then there was a place in Scranton called Cafe del Sol, which was this little coffee shop on the University of Scranton's campus that had punk shows, and everybody there wore leather jackets, and we would discover bands because they were painted on the back of the leather jackets. You know, you'd go into the record store after you wrote it down secretly, and that was the first place that I was in a mosh pit with much older people, and it was awesome.
Did you find it intimidating though? Because I speak about this a lot. That I find the first time you go and like you're kind of like, ooh, I'm gonna go, and then you kind of bottle it, and then you're like, fuck it, I'm mine. Totally. And then you're getting smashed around, but like you said, by guys who are usually big. Like,
they're big fucking guys. They're still big fucking guys.
Yeah. People smashing the shit out of each
Absolutely,
other.
that's why they do it.
But there is that kind of decor where I say at the end of every single podcast, if you go into a punk show, you see someone fall down, you pick them back up. And there is that kind of community vibe.
Yeah, it's like people listen to emo music and sad songs to feel good and not alone in that sadness. I think in the mosh pit is a cathartic violence in a way, you know? It's like... You know you're not going to go too far, for the most part. And I mean, but there's some hardcore shows and shit where it's clearly just too far. And there's people who are dickheads and take it out on people who clearly don't want to be involved, you know, like smash into them. And there's fights. We still have fights at our shows and shit like that. But I think, it's totally... Everybody's so high-strung in the society around us, and it's so competitive and bizarre. You know, we have plenty of things to keep us at bay, but it's... Definitely, life's not easy, and I think that you can go to a punk show and you get that out, and you like charge and recharge, and it can feel really good for people.
As the band, the Menzingers, got bigger, are you disappointed now with barriers? Did you enjoy it where there was no barriers, people can jump on stage and jump in the crowd, or do you now prefer the barriers like, fuck off?
Yeah, no, it's a case-by-case basis. It'd be more based off of the safety of the people in the crowd than off like whether or not I want somebody near me. Although, actually, I take that back. A lot of times I want somebody to get the fuck away, or dumping beer on my pedals and shit. Yeah. It's like, come on. But, yeah, the barrier's cool because people can be caught if they're going to crowd surf, and it's like a little bit safer for security guards to keep an eye on fights and give people water and shit like that.
So Bob and the Saggets, talk to me about them.
Oh, man, that was our high school ska band.
Yeah.
One guy's name's Curtis Irie. It was me, Joe, Eric, and Curtis that played in Bob and the Saggets.
I found some like stuff on YouTube, had a listen. Kind of got like a Big D vibe from it.
Sure, yeah, they were a huge influence of us.
So who's the one who's kind of doing the rapping? Because
that was me.
That's you.
Actually, we both did, but I normally did lots of the quick lyrics. And I was really into hip hop at the time, and I hung out with some kids that were like hip hop kids. And at the time, we were really excited to just merge all kinds of music everywhere, no matter what it was. It was like all that shit. But besides that, even our early Menzingers stuff, I do rap.
I was about to say that. Yeah.
And I kind of maybe bring a little bit of it back, not necessarily like the hip-hop alliteration, but a little bit of the quicker lyrics to feel more comfortable with, like some of the rhyming and the, alliteration and different speech things are they're just attractive. It's like rhythmic.
How do you think you'll do, though, if you're putting a rap out? Are you quick on your feet for thinking of rhymes?
Sure. I used to do that shit all the time. That was just from practice.
Yeah.
So back when we did Bob and the Saggets, we would play. We were also, should preface this by saying that we were never not really high. I was stoned the entire time Probably threw off my hormones for the rest of my life in late adolescence for being just fucking so stoned. But we would get up and play 7 or 8 minute long reggae jam things, and we would just freestyle over top of it. Just, 4 white guys from Scranton at a punk show.
Yeah.
We did that all the time. It's funny.
Do you miss the ska? Because I feel like it's something that people kind of grow out of as a band. Like they'll kick the horns, like, no, we're done with that now.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
And is a part of you like, I want to do a ska band?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's so stigmatized.
Yeah. I mean, the
Especially with
Flatliners are the obvious one who kind of were
fuck yeah.
ska and they had a whole bring back the horn thing going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a fantasy to do a specials cover band. Our friends put together a cover show every Christmas, and everybody kind of does it. Joe and Greg go together with a bunch of our friends to do a Saves the Day band every year. And there's like somebody did Tony Hawk Pro Skater last year and only played songs from Tony Hawk Pro Skater, which was fucking awesome.
Well, that game has like turned so many people onto punk rock.
Oh my god,
like,
yeah.
Like for me, Superman. I never heard Superman until I played that game, and I'm like, who the fuck are Goldfinger? And then I just fell in love with Goldfinger from there on in.
It was like the best timing.
So what age did you get into music and start playing? And how the question you're always going to get asked: how did you meet the rest of the guys in Menzingers?
Sure. I started playing music. I took violin class in 5th grade maybe, in the Scranton School District. So I was probably 10 or 11 and did that, without putting too much. Well, actually, I was pretty good at it for a couple of years, and then when I went to high school, I stopped playing. But yeah, that was my first introduction into playing an instrument, besides the piano that was at my grandparents' house that I would play. Just kind of like bang on and try to figure out little melodies and shit like that.
Do you still play piano?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
No, very serious. I can't like sight read while playing or anything like that, but I can read music and figure it out. And I played piano in the background on a lot of our tracks on our records. It's piano or organ. Yeah. So how I met the guys. I met Joe. Joe's great aunt was best friends with my grandmother. So we would see each other once every 6 months when we were younger, growing up, kind of just interact there. And then his younger brother, Tony, is one of my best friends in the entire world. He went to the same middle school as me, and then I met Joe through that or whatever. And then Joe played in a ska band called Fast Orange, and I was like, I need to play in a band with that guy. And then we met Eric.
I could rap over his horns.
I could rap over that shit. I can't wait. Wait till my voice drops. It's going to be awesome.
I would love to just imagine that you're rapping and you've still got that high pitch, and all of a sudden, boom!
It's just right in the middle of a set.
Just right in the middle, yeah.
Just
Crowd
hits
goes
all at
crazy.
once. Yep.
Yeah.
That's probably not too far off of how it happened. But yeah, so then we met Eric. He played in another band called Cherry Hodes, which is a knock on Harry Chodes. But yeah, it was like a pop punk band, and we had a bass player who wasn't very good. Bless his soul. He was a nice kid. His name was Corey. He's a good guy, but he
Corey's
wasn't
not crying,
good.
but
Corey's yeah.
He was
Corey's
like,
in
I thought it was
Scranton.
kids.
Corey's he couldn't play, so we just sniped Eric. We kind of were like, we went to a trip to the mall or something, and we were kind of just like, yeah, you want to play in our band? And he was like, yeah. So that was that. And we met Greg because he played in a band with my brother, and then we stole him from that band as well. We were like,
And
we wanna play with that guy.
Did your brother now resent that you stole his band name?
No, my brother's a chemical engineer now, and I think he set those days behind him.
Winning,
but at
yeah.
first, he might have resent a little bit. Yeah.
So at what point did you know that the Menzingers were literally that's it now? Because I think you get to a certain point as a band where basically like, I don't need to think about work. I don't really need to worry about. I don't need to go and work in a shop. Or what point was that? Or you were still waiting?
No, we haven't had another regular job. We've all done our various side hustles and things like that here and there back in the day. But we haven't had to have a job since 2012. So a long time. We did that by living together and by sharing a lot of costs and just by keeping the communication open that this is what we were going to do. We're like, all right, everybody's on board. Nobody's going to fuck off and screw it up for anyone else. So this is just what we all collectively want it so bad that we're just going to get it.
As a band, it seems to be that for me personally, like Chamberlain Waits was the album that introduced me to the Menzingers, and it's still on my playlist now. It's like if I ever make
That's
a playlist,
awesome.
I love that album, man. It's just
Hell
such
yeah.
a fucking good album. But from then, it seems to be every single album you've put out, you've got bigger crowds and you've got more momentum. Do you think that's a fair statement? And have you noticed that as a band?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's a great fair statement. We always had this running joke that on an XY plane, ours is like, the equation's 1-to-1. It's just like a perfect, no dipping, no variance. and was a blessing in disguise because a lot of our friends and bands that we've seen that got rapid popularity at once, it was difficult for them to manage, and it led to their inability to stay together. If somebody gave me as much money as I make now, if someone gave that to me when I was 22, I would be like dead, because I would have been like, oh wait, I could have a savings account? No, I could buy this much fucking coke, dude, or whatever, at that time.
At that time.
Yeah, at that time. Yeah, no longer need some Central American kid's family to die so I can drink more beers. It's not the drug of choice.
It's what Trump would have wanted. Write separately in like a Monty. I always think whenever someone talks about they write separately and come together, I always think of Monty Python because that's what they did. They went off in little groups and come together. And that eventually ended up killing that comedy group. So how do you guys keep your egos in check? Because obviously you're coming in with passion, like you're coming in with something you spent time on, you've written, you brought it together, and then all of a sudden one of you go, nah, that's shit.
Yeah, that's the most one of the most frustrating parts of being in a band, but probably the most frustrating thing. Which you can tell I live a pretty good life. I'm going to say this. Probably the most soul-crushing thing to deal with in life is that you spend so much time and pour so much emotion and be so attached to something, whether it's a verse or a chorus or a chord progression that you have a vision for that you want to be built out into a song by everybody, and to have it fizzle out and die.
Yeah.
Whether it's because one person doesn't like it or because it's not clicking or anything like that. That's just extremely difficult. And the way you manage that is you just stop and revisit it a couple days later, and go figure out what's wrong with it and redo it. And if it sucks and it's not meant to be, then it's a good thing that everybody else put that in check, because you don't want to put shit out, and you don't want to play anything that you don't like. So if somebody's doing something like, well, I really like this, and you're like, well, I don't, then,
Do you put it in your back pocket though, like for later on, just in case?
Oh, of course, yeah, for sure. I usually, to be honest, I haven't been up until recent years good at being organized with that creative stuff. So I didn't have one notebook. I would lose them and shit, or one place that I would put all my favorite ideas. But we've gotten much better at that in the last couple of years, and it's a lot easier to revisit things.
So
and they make their way out. There's so many things. There's songs on After the Party and pieces that we had written for albums years before that would just kept sitting there, and then came back to the surface.
Is that because though it's bugging you? I know this is good. Why are you guys dismissing this? I know it's good. I'm going to make it good. Fuck you, it's good. It's on the album now.
You nailed it. That's it. Yeah. Or you sneak it in. You're and somebody's like, "Wait, was that part from that other thing?" You're like, "Nah, it's different."
It's on track now. Fuck off. It's done.
Yeah, right.
So, On the Impossible Pass was the first album you put on Epitaph. Before that, did you have Fat or any other labels sniffing around, trying and get in contact?
Yeah, we would run into mostly people who had other jobs at the labels. They weren't necessarily the A&R person that came out and was like, "Hey, we want to sign you," or whatever. We had a pretty easy trajectory when it came to that. We didn't have to fight to make too many decisions. There wasn't there was no major label interest or anything like that.
Yeah.
But there was just some random indie labels that offered to put our stuff out.
So what's an Epitaph Christmas party like?
Never been to one. We've never fucking made one.
Fuck?
So we get invited every year, and we hear that they're incredible and it's awesome. They do them at karaoke places. They do them at these places where are weird private event halls in Los Angeles that you just they all look and sound incredible. But we have never been able to fly out for one because we've always had something going on at that time. So tough in December with so many family things. And yeah. Damn, I wish I could answer that for you. Fuck. Heard so many stories that are insane.
So have I. I was hoping for one.
Yeah.
And ruined it. So I mean, Menzingers for me are up there with Frank Turner with just touring. I interviewed Frank on the podcast and I asked him if he's actually addicted. Like, is it an actual addiction where you love it so much that you need to kind of have a calm down and just chill out? And he was like, actually, we are going to relax a little bit more. What about you? Because you're always on the road, you're always touring. I mean, this is what, third time in the UK?
This year?
This year? Or Europe?
Maybe. It's definitely the second. I don't know if it's the third. My brain's not functioning for this year right this second. But yeah, we toured so much. I have to say, first, I have respect. We just did a tour with Frank Turner, and looking at their day sheet that they post, so every day on a tour, they post up this thing called day sheet, and has the address, some things that are near there, and then the schedule run for the day. And Frank Turner always had like 5 fucking interviews and a meet and greet or acoustic show before the show. And we've never toured with anybody who works as hard as he does.
He's so generous with his time. So generous with his time.
And it's not like he's just like too busy to hang out either. He'd come and hang out.
Yeah.
You know, or have a beer or whatever. Like the dude is extremely inspiring to see that a human being is capable of doing that. It makes me think that, maybe something inside of us is capable of doing that as well. Probably not tour as much. That guy's played so many shows. Yeah, we tour a lot. And as we get older, it's been more difficult. But since we're getting bigger, it's become easier. Like here in the UK, we're in a tour bus, so I can literally fuck off and go to sleep whenever I want to. There's like a little coffin in there that I could pull the curtain back and kind of just disappear. Whereas in a van, it's a lot more difficult. It's a lot harder on your body and your mind. But yeah, being gone so long from home is tough and bizarre, to say the least.
Yeah.
But at the same time, every time I dread to go on the tour, a couple days beforehand, I'll be like, fuck, I gotta change my routine. It's gonna be stressful. You get there and it's awesome. It's like you realize why you like to tour in the first place. You get to see cool, interesting places like Blackpool here.
No one has ever in the world said, come and see interesting places like Blackpool.
I don't know. Interesting is it doesn't have a good or bad connotation to it. I think you can kind of swing that. No, I might mean it as a good thing. I love it here.
Quickly, say that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you guys tour a lot, and I've noticed you do a lot of podcasts as well. So, how much do you actually enjoy this kind of shit? Because it is a bit like, I always try and remind people that musicians, this is their job.
Yeah.
Like, as much as people may go, oh, they're doing the best, they're enjoying the best thing they've ever done. Like, how can this be a job? But it still is a job.
Sure.
So you get asked sometimes some fucking stupid questions.
Oh my God, yeah.
What's your favorite stupid question you've been asked? Is it that one?
Where did you get name for band Menzinger? That one probably.
Yeah.
A lot of Germans. Why did you name your band after a Bavarian family name? That kind of shit. I mean, that's not that annoying. It's like a completely legitimate question. Why would you not ask that? I think that
How's the tour going?
How's the tour going? Oh, what's the craziest thing that ever happened to you in your life? What is the linchpin of your existence?
Yeah.
The annoying ones are when someone asks you or is interviewing you, I would say, and they clearly just have no idea about the band or, haven't listened or like don't have any usable frame of reference. They kind of just take boilerplate questions and kind of throw them at you, and you kind of think, well, both of us are kind of just wasting our time here, are we not?
Have you ever just stopped an interview and gone, oh, dude?
No, fuck yeah. There was one interview in particular, a German one, not to rag on the Germans. There's a guy, it's Toby Jeg is strolling by us with a liquor cage full of merchandise. He's the guy who owns Red Scare Records, who's first guy who gave us a big shot, besides Greg from Go-Kart. I love that man to death. Well, Toby, he's the best.
You've already slagged off Germany, so let's try and boost the country.
Yeah.
Punk rock is its own little small community. It's not a mega. It's not like rap. It's not like rock. It's not even like prog rock. I don't believe with the audience. What country do you feel still has that punk rock essence, whereas everything still is quite DIY? It has a really nice underground scene. Like, is there certain countries that you go to and you go?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I
just
start with Germany. Germany has it's a different kind of underground scene, because it's colored by their perception of what rock and roll and punk rock is in the States and the UK. So they get their media, from wherever they got their media, and it's English is not their first language and all those things. There are massive hurdles in the way of being able to fully participate, and good on everybody for trying. It's incredible. But they have such a hippie political ethic at a lot of the venues that you go to. They are always so happy to see bands and so generous, and I'm so appreciative to be at the festival that you're playing or at the show that you're at, and I love playing there. It's so awesome to play in Germany. Other countries would be, we haven't really played many non-Western countries. So when we went to Budapest recently, for example, there are people there that aren't fitting into the exact pigeonholed niche subculture of whatever type of punk that you want to see. So they're not they don't only listen to Lookout Records music, or they don't only listen to street punk or anything like that. They kind of are any type of like melodic, angry music. They'll just get really into it, and it's like very interesting to see people appreciate that and be stoked about it.
I've heard Australia's quite decent for a punk scene.
Yeah.
Like, it's got a decent vibe. And
Yeah, totally. Australia does have a decent vibe. It's like Australia is such a fascinating place. You take it's like
it's just fast. It's so big.
so big, yet there's so small because there's only it's great if you get the chance and you're not doing anything right now and you're listening to this and you want to do it later. Look up a population density, like a topographical map of Australia, and see where the majority of the population lives, and you realize that I think there's 20 or 30 million people in Australia. I could be wrong on that, but they all live on either coast, in extremes on either coast, and in the major cities and the surrounding areas of the major cities. So it's kind of like, for a massive place, it has a feeling and a vibe that is so tight and like networkable, or like connected to each other, because it's like just those things together. But it definitely has a really awesome DIY scene, and a lot of really cool bands have come out of there and made it into the States, into Western Europe and stuff.
So what about countries that you would like to play in? Because when I'm not doing this, I make radio documentaries.
Oh, cool.
And one I'm trying to get commissioned at the moment is punk in the Middle East. And in particular, I want, like, Lebanon itself has a huge punk scene that's not touched.
Yeah.
And, like, would you be down for, like, is that something that excites you, where as the band get bigger and you get the opportunity to actually kind of go, okay, fuck it, kind of like what NoFX did, they did their documentary or mockumentary,
sure,
whatever. Like, would you like to go and do those kind of areas, like Lebanon, not so much Syria right now, but Jordan? Like, is that something that interests you?
Oh, totally, absolutely. We've talked about that. Every time that, this is not nearly on that scale, but every time that we do a European tour, because we're already coming over, we try to get our booking agent to put a place that we're not going to make money from. It's not going to be the net part of the tour, but it's some place that we get to go and see just because we play in a band. Like, we get this opportunity to go check it out. The Middle East would be fascinating. Lebanon in particular would be awesome. My family's actually from Lebanon. My mom's,
really?
My mom's maiden name is Abdullah. My great-grandparents came over to the States earlier in the 20th century, and I've always been fascinated with Lebanon. Never been able to go back, except after, of course, 1950s, 60s, things changed a whole lot.
Well, I just got back 6 months ago.
Oh, how was it?
It was nice, man. It
Nice.
was chilled
It's awesome.
out. Went right down to the Israeli border.
Very cool.
But we had to get a visa from Hezbollah, which is weird.
Yeah, it's bizarre, huh?
But it's my girlfriend happens to be Lebanese, so
Oh,
she's
no
got family
shit.
over there. So
Oh.
we went over there, and it's I love it. It's such an amazing country, that doesn't get, because of it's between Syria, it's between Israel, and it's constantly
Absolutely.
political instability. So it's a shame.
Yeah, my cousins some of the Abdallahs just went down. Two of them, I believe, went on school trips, like through Israel and then Lebanon and some other places. And yeah, I would love to go there. It'd be awesome. I don't know anything about the music scene there or the punk scene.
Just the food, mate. Just have the food.
Food's good?
Food's
Yeah,
fucking
hell
amazing.
yeah. You get some tabbouleh,
tell you,
kebinayat, yeah, all that shit. It'd be
Lebe.
awesome.
Oh, you want it? So let's quickly talk about after the party, and I'll let you go. After the party, everyone says that it's kind of like an album where basically you've kind of reflected. Because obviously you got that song where basically talk about being in your 30s. Now you're in your 30s, 20s are gone, and just kind of reflecting on the past time and like now you need to get your shit together.
Yeah.
You're now been in your 30s for a little while. I'm 35 now, and I'll admit when I was going to my 30s, I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, my job was a bit instability, and it's like, ooh. Like, how are you finding it now? You enjoying your 30s now?
I like my 30s more than any other time in my life. I can look back fondly upon the different points in the 20s, but it was such a clusterfuck, and it was so hard for material reasons and for relationship reasons and family reasons. Anything you can fucking imagine sucked.
Yeah.
But it didn't suck. It was beautiful. But I found the 30s is so much better now, in part because of the wisdom that I think that I've gotten with time, or that my friends have seen also kind of pick up with time. And also the fact that it coincides with the social acceptance of, leaving and going to bed early, while your body's starting to get hurt down. Yeah, I'm loving it, man. It's really like, it is scary in that it's unknown and that you're not sure where you should be, but it's really lovely in the fact that you can kind of just realize that where you are is totally fine, no matter where it is. I think that's something that I've been chasing after forever, and something that doesn't always work, and you can't always believe that, but yeah, so far the 30s have been really awesome. I know that we're going to live a lot longer hopefully, than the people came right before us. Yeah, knock on wood. And it seems like if we're growing up later and getting married later, statistically, as we are in the United States and in the UK, then the 30s is kind of like a landing strip for the 20s. You kind of get a grace period into those things that used to be so rigid and serious. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's pretty great. I'm 32 now. I just turned 32 last week.
Oh, happy birthday last week.
Hey, thank you. And it's I fucking love it. It's great.
Oh, good.
So Toy Soldiers, like, you dropped it, and then you did nothing. Like, are you just like cock teasing? And are you gonna put out an album? What's going on?
So we've realized that the way that people put out music is changing a lot. So a lot of bigger hip hop and pop acts will just put out singles here and there, and we want to experiment with that. So we'll see what happens for the rest of the year this year.
Because as a fan, Benjamin Soundclash did exactly the same thing. They did a song, Clocks, I think it was called, and I was like, yeah,
check them. I love that band, by the way. That's awesome.
Oh my god! And have you seen them live?
Yeah, we have. We saw them at Reading and Leeds, actually, at the lockup
Dude,
stage.
that's the first time I saw them. And they
that's
put
the only time I saw them.
down to the
Yeah,
the
dude was
crowd.
walking. He had the girl hold the snare drum, and they like backed up into the crowd. And while he was playing, it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, so that's the first time I ever saw them, and then since then I've been like, festivals are great, but I always want to like watch a band at their own show.
Yeah.
And since then I've been like, they kind of went quiet after that, and they haven't been to the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw like Clockwork, I was like, dude, okay, that's it. Album's coming. They're coming over. And then it's been nothing since. So yeah.
Well, for us, it was awesome. We wrote the song, went to the studio, recorded it. It was all really quick. And then we put it out, and it was a way for we could play a new song at our set every night. It's a new and exciting thing. It got us a lot of new people found us because it goes on to the different release radars of the streaming services and stuff like that. So it's like a new way to release music, and I've really enjoyed that.
So this time next year, what can we expect? Anything? Nothing?
I think you can expect news for sure.
Just
Good news.
Your news or just news?
Well, hopefully, when you turn your TV on, there'll be some news. You can learn about whatever fucking pound.
Being optimistic that it might be a next year. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, we have some cool news that we'll be coming out with soon. And next year we'll definitely be touring, and we'll definitely be over here, our favorite places to go to.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for your time, Tom. And
hey, thanks for having me. It's great.
Pleasure, man. And I hope you enjoyed the show. The rest of your time in Blackpool, sorry. I know you got a show in Coco, is that right? Or in Forum?
Tomorrow's Forum.
Bad Cop, Lagwagon.
Yeah, Lagwagon, Lawrence Arms.
Flatlines were meant to play, weren't they?
Flatlines were meant to play, and they unfortunately were unable to play.
Yeah, they busted.
But that just means we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, definitely. All right, man. Well, thank you again.
Yeah, thanks, dude. Appreciate it.
Cheers. Tom for taking the time to have a beer and a laugh with me. I don't know why I'm doing it in that voice. It's just weird. You can catch Tom doing his solo work at this year's Manchester Punk Festival in the UK. If you've never been to MPF, you 100% should. It's a cracking few days, whereabouts they spread it across the city in several venues in Manchester. It's taking place from the 19th till the 21st of April. It's Easter weekend, so you don't need any time off work. On the bill is, of course, Tom, as well as King Prawn, Snuff, Creepshow, coming soon guest Subhumans and Authority Zero, just to name a few. There will also be a comedy and poetry tent, if that's your jam, as well as pop-up record stores. It's going to be a blast. Punks in Pubs will be there in some capacity. Go support a DIY festival and pick up your tickets at manchesterpunkfestival.co.uk. Right, that's it for this week. I'm flying solo for the next couple of months because Stephen Burke is having a baby anytime soon, so good luck with that one, mate. Thank you to the listeners for remembering me and the podcast. Don't forget to tell your mates and spread the love. Summer is coming, so go pick up your Punks in Pubs t-shirt and represent. And also go and rate and review. Playing at the show this week is a band from the City of Love, also known as Your Mum's House. mainly known as Paris. The band are called Cheap Teen, and this track is called Mainstream Music. As always, if you're going to a punk show and you see someone fall down, you pick them right back up. Till next time, bye-bye.
Oscar Wilde said, "Everything popular is wrong." This seems evident in today's music tracks, which are constantly topped by the likes of Tom Bieber, Cyrus, Direction, one only has to balance every decade, one day, lyrics of the scratch, effective stuff is exactly because popular person downloads popular the highest number that's touching the middle of the early 1970s. German middle of the krautrock, for example, let's say that a person's appreciation for music and their ability to recognize. So is this fair? Harsh? Is this the reason such talented musicians struggle to appeal to the majority? Should musicians dumb down their music in order to go mainstream?
Fucking sick,